I definitely want to start this video off with a disclaimer. I am not glorifying the use of any substances, any medicines, if you will. These substances are not to be taken lightly. They have serious effects that, if you are not prepared for, could alter the course of your life forever, mentally, or be damaging to your health if you don't take them seriously. As for 5-MeO-DMT, there are a lot of health risks you should be worried about, although it is not an overall super dangerous substance. If you choose to partake in this medicine, there are definitely things that you should be worried about. And first of all, I would not do this substance if you don't have a fully developed brain, meaning I would not recommend using this unless you are 25 years of age at least. There are risks of overdoses, and there have been reports of them in the past with this substance. If you're not a healthy individual, especially if you have any cardiac issues, high blood pressure, anything along those lines, you definitely should not partake in the use of this medicine. And the medicine that I'm talking about at hand is called 5-MeO-DMT. That is 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine, which should not be confused with NN-DMT. And that's a normal type of DMT that you hear everyone talking about, the one everyone usually knows and loves. But this one I'm going to be talking about actually comes from a toad. It's from the poison of the Colorado River toad. The other one is not from that, but the other one, NN-DMT, is not nearly as powerful as 5-methoxy-DMT. 5-methoxy-DMT is known to be significantly more potent than NN-DMT. I would also advise you to never do this alone by yourself. Always have a sitter of some kind. And there are also legal implications as well. I think this is technically a Schedule 1 substance. Where I live in the United States, this is not legal to use unless under very extremely specific circumstances. You got to look at the fine print. I don't know everything specifically, but if you're using this under a religious setting for religious uses, under the label of a church, those entities are legally, and in some cases, they are legally allowed to administer this substance to people. So you really got to look at the fine print of the legality of usage in this substance where you live, because I may not live where you guys live. Also, you definitely can't eat for like 8 hours before you do this. Everything needs to be digested out of your stomach. You can't be on any sort of like medication or be taking any supplements or vitamins. There's herbs that you can't take, and 100% you need to be off for SSRIs. I believe they might have said for at least 2 weeks before you take this medication, any SSRIs, antidepressants like that, because there is a risk that you can develop. This can cause serotonin syndrome. I guess this medicine produces a lot of serotonin in your mind, and if you're already taking an SSRI or an antidepressant or even some sort of herb that you don't know about that's creating more serotonin in your brain than there is naturally produced, then you could definitely get serotonin syndrome from this, which can be deadly and is very dangerous for you. Find a trusted guide. If they're trusted enough, they will give you all the information that you need to have in order to be safe. And please follow that, because you don't want to hurt yourself. But let's get started. I'll give you a little backstory. So I had read on some forums, watched some videos, that 5-MeO-DMT is known as the magic pill to enlightenment and God realization, truth of no self realization. And as you know, I took the risk to figuring out if these claims had any real backing to them, if if 5-MeO-DMT is actually this magic pill and if it is something useful that can be used to achieve enlightenment or enlightenment states. So I'm a trained professional, as you know, so I took this opportunity that I had to test those claims. And what the opportunity was on the Pacific Northwest. I had a vacation, and locally there was a church or religious setting that's exactly what they did. They gave Bufo alvarius ceremonies. Now, when you're talking about 5-MeO-DMT, there are two different types of 5-MeO. There is one in its purest form, which is the synthetic version. The synthetic version is just pure 5-MeO-DMT, but it's not the natural version. It was made in a lab. It's synthetic. And then there is another version, which is the 5-MeO-DMT in the poison or maybe venom, I'm not sure which one it was, of the Colorado River toad. And they call this medicine, the natural kind that comes from this toad, they call it Bufo alvarius. And that would be the one that I'd be using during this ceremony on my vacation. So I booked this vacation a little bit in advance, about probably a month out, and I had been watching the social media accounts of this religious church for quite a long time now. So I had some trust in them. I had talked to the guy before many times, and I figured I would just book a trip, see what this experience was all about, go down and have the ceremony, and test to see if this stuff was really the real deal, if this was really that magic pill to spiritual enlightenment as I was looking for. They definitely market this thing as a healing substance. They say that has a lot of healing properties, both mental and physical properties, to aid in your healing as well as spiritual practice. So I was interested in giving those a shot as well. So I booked this trip, went out to Oregon, was doing some sightseeing around there, doing a lot of hikes, traveling out in nature, visiting a national park and whatnot. And the day was coming, so I had one more day from when I got there to prepare for this journey. I was about to go on this spiritual journey with the Bufo alvarius. You know, I was worried about this substance a lot. I have read that it was the most powerful psychedelic on the entire planet, and I've never partook in any of those before because of the legality reasons and whatnot. So I didn't know if this was the best one to be starting with, and it sure made me very nervous. I was like thinking to myself, you know, am I going to come out of this vegetable, or am I going to be scarred for life? Or, you know, can this really pose some health risks to me? You know, I don't really know this shaman completely. I know set and setting is important. What if I'm not right in the right set? What if I'm not in the right setting? There's just a lot of risk involved, and I overall think that this might not be the smartest idea, which of course it really wasn't, but I had a little bit of risk involved for sure. So I remember I actually drove from the Airbnb where I was staying to the sanctuary where the ceremony was going to be held at the next day. So that day, the day of the ceremony, I drove out to that sanctuary, and I said to myself, you know, like, I'll just drive out there and see what it's like. And, you know, if I don't like the vibes, I can just go home, because I remember that morning as I was at my Airbnb, I woke up like an hour before my alarm was supposed to go off, because you need to take this substance in the morning. That's because you can't eat beforehand, because there's a risk of throwing up. You need to do it on an empty stomach. And I woke up early in the morning, about an hour before I was supposed to be awake. And I thought, you know what, I can't do this. I'm just going to turn my alarm off. And if my natural circadian rhythm wakes me up in time to still be able to make it there in time, then I guess that's just, it was just meant to be. So at that point, I got to go. So I remember I fell back asleep, and I woke up right before I was supposed to, in order to be there on time. So I was like, damn, like I have to do this now. So I sat up in bed, and I was like, really don't want to be doing this. Really don't want to be doing this. So I almost had to like gaslight myself to get there. I was like, what if I just put my clothes on and see how I feel? So I put my clothes on and I was sitting on my bed and I was like, yeah, maybe I should just get ready to go, get everything ready in case I decide to do it. So I got everything ready. You need to bring a pillow and you need to bring a blanket. You need to bring some water and electrolytes for after. You should bring like a notepad and pen if to write down any insights you have. So I got all that stuff together and I was sitting there and I was like looking at the time and I was like, let me just get in my car and see how I feel. So I left outside the Airbnb and I got in my car and I was waiting to see how I felt. I had my hands on the wheel for like 5 minutes and I was just like, you know what? Let me drive to the sanctuary because I've been following these people for a long time on social media. So at least let me go check it out. So I drove to the sanctuary, and by the time I parked, there were people getting out, and I was like, "Is this where the ceremony's taking place?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, dude, like come up, we're about to start." So at that point, I was like, "Well," I was like, "I have significantly gaslit myself." To the point of no return. So I guess here we go. So I got out of my car, got all that stuff I just said out of the back, locked the car, went up, and it was up this little hill. There was this little sanctuary that had been made, and I remember everyone. It was like a private ceremony, which wasn't really private, I guess, but there were about 6 of us all sitting around, and everyone had put their blanket out on the ground. They had put their pillows behind their back. There was a small donation that we gave to the shaman. I met the shaman, nice guy. And I remember we were all sitting there, kind of like cross legged in this half circle around our blankets as the shaman was there. And the shaman, he was doing a whole bunch of stuff. He was lighting this, might have been like some sort of tobacco in a bowl. And he was like blowing it in our faces and stuff like that, preparing us. And I mean, this whole time I'm sitting there just like, "Oh my god." Like, there's no going back. This could be the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life, and I have absolutely no idea what's gonna happen, and I was pretty anxious. So we all as we're sitting there, he's talking about, making sure we didn't eat anything before he's preparing the medicine, whatnot, and he had the medicine in these little, vials. It just looks like a little powder, and, that's where the Bufo is, because the way that they, I don't know exactly the process entirely, but I know that they catch these toads and they squeeze the venom glands or whatever on the side of the toad's cheeks. Squirt they squeeze the cheeks and the venom shoots out, and they hold a slate of glass, and the venom shoots out onto that glass, and they let the venom dry, and that kind of turns it into like a powdered form, which they then put into these little glass pipes that they're using to prepare this medicine for administration. They put it into these vials, and so he's preparing all this stuff, sitting there. I'm getting really nervous, and we're sitting around, and he takes this. It almost looks like an Indian arrowhead, but it's very large, and it's tied around a piece of string. So then he like points at the sun. He takes his arrowhead on the string. He starts spinning it around, and it's like boom, 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 as it's cutting through the air. It was meant to open some portal, I guess. And then he goes, "Who wants to go first?" So someone volunteers who had went before. He takes a little vial that your dose of medicine has, and he screws it into this pipe. And as he went up to the first participant, he held up almost like a prayer that it basically was words of affirmation, just really setting the tone to a positive experience, which would help alleviate your anxiety before you go into this. Because with this type of medicine, you really want to let go. I mean, that's the one thing while you're taking this medicine that you really got to remember once the effects start to hit you is you have to let go of fear, control, everything. It's a complete surrender because the moment you start fighting this and your ego is not surrendering to the substance, you're going to clash with it. And that's when some problems are going to start occurring. So you want to just prepare yourself to let go as much as possible. So for the first guy, he's holding this prayer up. The guy's reading it. So he takes his pipe, holds it up to the guy's mouth, and he takes a torch and starts torching the bottom of this vial as the dude's mouth's on the pipe, and he's breathing in the smoke that's being produced from torching the medicine, and goes into the guy's mouth. He takes a deep breath in and then lays back, and I'm watching this all go down. And you could have a lot of different reactions when you take this medicine. I mean, you could be crying, you could be screaming, you could be laughing, you could be throwing up, you could be rolling around. But it only really lasts for like 15 minutes when you smoke it. There's different routes of administration, but when you're smoking the Bufo, which is the natural venom, um, it lasts about like 15 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending how much you take. And the guy who took it, he's, like, sitting there, and, he's, like, rolling around a little, but he's having a good time, and, I guess so, 'cause he, sat back up afterwards, and they're all saying, it's a pretty powerful thing. And then the guy next to me, he had never smoked a day in his life before, this substance, I mean, like, he'd never taken this substance before. It was me and the other guy, he had never taken this substance. So the other guy who had never done it, he goes next and he inhales this and he lays back and then he like starts like throwing up and I'm just like, "Oh man." You know, only other guy hasn't taken this before and he's yakking and I was like, "This is a little scary to watch." So I'm watching, this all go down. And I was definitely getting very nervous. And he sits back up afterwards and he's saying it's the most, beautiful experience that he's ever had in his entire life. So, now it's my turn. I was definitely nervous. So my plan was to not really do a whole lot. I don't know if I did as much as these people. I kind of took my mouth off the pipe early. I remember, but he was holding up the prayer and I'm reading it. And after you read the last line, it's like I'm cooked. Like this is like I am like it's over. Like I'm done. This is full committal mode. Oh my God, like it's actually here. So he holds up the thing and I'm like, all right, cheers. And he's torching it for me. I'm breathing in. And I just lay back, put my head in the pillow, lay on the blanket, and I just wait for these effects to start taking over. The first effect that I really noticed was that I got very, 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 very stoned very quickly. Within 15 seconds, I mean, I was there. And the way that it felt was it almost felt like my body, like I had been unraveled into this like two-dimensional being almost. Like it felt like, instead of 3 dimensions, like I was almost made two-dimensional. Like, it almost felt like my body and my appendages and like my head and my thoughts and all that stuff was just like 2 dimensions. Like it was almost like stick figurey. And what's supposed to happen is God is supposed to do his thing. He's supposed to come in. He's supposed to clear out all your trauma and all your problems, just completely wash away your ego and then spit you back in your body. And so I remember when that happened, it was like I could imagine if I was a fish swimming in water my whole life. And then all of a sudden, I'm caught by a fisherman, and then within a millisecond, I'm yanked out of the water and slapped on a dock, and the sun is just like beating down, and I'm just like it was like, "Where's the water?" Like, all the air had gotten sucked out of the room, everything was, like, two-dimensional, everything was so, like, bright and clear, it's almost like the murkiness to reality completely disappeared as all the oxygen almost got, like, sucked out of the atmosphere. So, if you can imagine a fish that's minding its own business for years and years and years, it's alive, and then all of a sudden it gets smacked out and slammed on a dock. That is the kind of experience that it almost, felt like. Everything was almost crystalline. I remember I opened my eyes and there was, like, crystals feeling, like, all over the trees. Everything was very, very shiny, and it felt like that there was supposed to be a lot of anxiety in this situation that I was in because I was extremely, extremely out of my head during this experience. And then as I was laying there, it was almost like the fact that like I didn't die. I was laying there and I was like, oh my God, like there should be this like so much anxiety that I'm feeling right now, but like there just is none right now. It's almost like there's supposed to be anxiety, but because there's this presence that there is some all-knowing, all-loving entity around you, during this experience, it's almost like it knows that you're supposed to be in this extremely anxiety-ridden state because of how intoxicated you feel, but this because there's this all-loving presence with you, it almost doesn't allow that anxiety to happen. So I was almost like, "Oh my god, like, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it." And then I remembered that another insight I had was I just, like, was, like, feeling the atmosphere and everything while I was in this state, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. This is what it felt like before I was born." It was almost like it was a very familiar state that I was in. It wasn't like some alien force had taken over my mind, some crazy substance that I had taken. I was just, as soon as I was in this extremely intoxicated state, I was just like, "Oh yeah, this one, yeah." You know what I mean? Even though I had never taken it before. It was like I said, you were very like fish out of water, almost sun like sizzling all over you. All the contrast was like turned up, like the knob of consciousness. And you almost recognized this space, the consciousness that everything exists inside of. You realize that there is one consciousness, and it made it very apparent that there's one consciousness and that the consciousness is not located inside of time or space, but there is almost this one. We talk about this in our work that we do all the time, but there's this one consciousness that gives birth to everything. So it invents time, it invents space. It's basically this impersonal bubble field that doesn't exist anywhere or at any single point in time. It's just floating around in this void of nothingness, almost like an organism. And it was very easy to see that under this state that I was in. And I had been struggling a lot during this time about like, oh, like, am I a good person? Am I doing everything I'm supposed to be? Like, I was awakening to all the times maybe I had not been a good person in my life, but because almost this substance gave you, or gave me this feeling of, beauty and whatnot, and it showed me how beautiful everything is. I was almost walking around. I was like, okay, maybe like I'm not screwed here. Maybe I am deserving of love, and maybe like my life is beautiful, and maybe I'm still special, and there's more love that I can give, and there's more that I could do for this world before I die. It almost gave me hope that I was worthy of love and whatnot, which was nice to experience. And this medicine is not going to discriminate. It's gonna show you that everyone is kind of, no matter all the mistakes that they made, they're still deserving of this love. And that was one of my favorite insights so far about this whole thing. And I remember in a lot of videos that I've watched, I remember I watched this one Joe Rogan video, and he describes this like white geometric, like this white field of geometry, and the way it almost, looks like, because I actually saw this, when I was under it, the way that I actually saw it was, it almost looks like, when you're closing your eyes, it looks like, imagine like a honeycomb, how it's made out of, like, hexagons, kind of. I don't know, if is a honeycomb made out of, it was like a honeycomb design, but all, like, the holes were like hexagons. And, as I was looking at this, like, geometric field of hexagons, it was like they were all, like, they were all, like, morphing kind of and, like, popping in and out, and they were, like, sentient almost like this whole white geometric field of hexagons was almost acting like an organism, and it was, like, pulsating and whatnot and beating. And I think at that point is when all of a sudden, like, I realized that, like, someone was, like, singing to me or something like that. Behind me, I realized that the shaman was, like, singing behind me because what he would do is at first, after he administered the, medicine, he had this instrument, it was like an accordion, but not the one that you hold, it was like a box that you kinda, like, squeeze to make the noise. So we had that behind, all the participants when they first went, and then after that was done, he, like, took out a guitar and was playing and singing music. So after this geometric field, I remember I opened my eyes, I was seeing all of the crystalness in on the trees and, just around me in the atmosphere in the world. And I remember, like, my body almost felt like it was, like, transparent. And I had been familiar with that feeling before, in my spiritual work when I do self-inquiry and watch my videos before when I first experienced the truth and know self, it was almost like my body came transparent and it almost felt like I was that empty space. I could feel all the empty space inside my body, and it almost felt like wind moves through your body because so it's like your body turns into a hologram when you experience enlightenment and awakening. And because when the self disappears inside the body, you're not located inside the body anymore. It's almost just like the whole entire body is like a hologram, and it's like completely transparent since you're not identified with it. You're identified with all of the empty space inside the room that you're in, which is also in your body that you're in. So, I was feeling all of that as well, and then after that geometric field, I was coming out of it, and then I hear the shaman behind me singing. He's singing the song about how, life is a dream or something like that as I was coming out of it, and then that's one of the first times where I really realized I was like, "Oh my god," like, I've been doing this spiritual work for so long, for, like, so many years. I never seriously, like I've considered it to because there's degrees to, like, awakening in a way. So I have considered, like, life being a dream, and I've experienced that in some degrees in my awakening to some degrees. But then I remember, like, when he was saying to me, "Life is a dream," while I was on this, medicine, I was like, "Wow." Like, I, like, and re the degree to which I understand that life is a dream is very, potent and significant in this moment right now. Like, I'm almost really realizing more strongly than before how life is actually, could be a dream because you hear a lot of people saying that when they're talking about spiritual practice, and you're almost just kinda like, "Yeah, like, that's just some human saying it, and I know that there's some truth to it, but in reality, you're not really 100% sure, and you haven't really because you wanna experience it, you don't wanna understand it intellectually." Well, when it happened, I was like, this is not like the degree in which I realized that it is possible that this life really is a dream just completely skyrocketed. Like, I could see it now. It was so clear to me that I could see that in this, dream, everyone takes the scientific materialistic paradigm, like, so seriously. It just became, like, so obvious to me how this is literally a belief system that everyone just voted on. And that was extremely eye-opening to me, where I was like, "Wow." Like, everyone really just sucked up and demystified this experience of the universe happening right now. They just demystified it to such, like, a sad degree. And if that never had happened and everybody was more trusting only their direct experience and not stories about reality and everything like that, about how reality ought to be. If everyone was trusting their direct experience more and never heard the story of the scientific or materialistic paradigm before, then what a different life we would all live. What other values would we have? Things really could be different for the better if that was the case. So that's about it. I came out of it, and I remember the first, words that I said after I sat up were, "Okay, let's do it again," which was crazy because I was so fricking scared, but I liked it. I know I'd say that I'm trying not to be biased at all, but I did. I definitely plan to do it again in the future. Now, the lessons that I learned, I already talked about all the little ones that I learned. I didn't have the huge breakthrough experience. Now, that was because I was nervous, and when you especially when you haven't used any of these medicines before, you're pointing at everyone around you who's doing it, and they're all like, "Oh, yeah, just take as big as a hit as you can and blow it out, and everything's fine." You're looking at all these people who are with you, and you're like, "You're crazy. You're irresponsible. I don't trust any of you. I don't even know why I'm here, but I am not doing a whole lot, especially if it's the world's most powerful psychedelic. Like, you are out of your minds, and you're all irresponsible." And, but I don't think that I had, like, the strongest experience that I was able to have. I didn't have any massive breakthroughs. I didn't have any God realizations or, like, full, like, permanent truth of no self experiences and everything like that. Like, for the most part, I was, like, in my body still, like, my ego was there, like, I didn't have any ego death or anything like that. So I can't be too mad at myself because, hey, I was trying to be responsible and not take a ridiculous amount. But now that I know it's something I like and I can handle, who knows? There will be another trip in the future, possibly. I am headed out there again in about 6 months to do a darkness retreat where I will be in 3 days and 3 nights of darkness in a cave in Oregon. So that will be a cool video that you guys should be excited for. And so I will definitely get that full experience soon. I plan to continue down this path, maybe experiment with it some more. But for now, thank you guys for listening, and I can't wait to catch you all on the next one.